of psychology and pop culture had a baby, they'd call it Shrink Tank.
A new paper reveals more intelligent people are quicker to learn and unlearn.
90% chance that there's some weird animal out there.
Alan Stern's been doing this forever, and far more extreme. From Nashville and Charlotte, this is the Shrink Tank Podcast.
All right, welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us. I'm Dave Verhagen in Nashville. We've got a great show for you. Our trending topic today is the Winter Olympics. We'll talk about Olympic memories, controversies, the global political climate, South Korea, and all of that. That's in our second segment. But first, let's meet our Charlotte panel. Dr. Emma Kate Wright is here. And Emma Kate, you have some big news for us.
I do. So everyone likes to make fun of me because I'm not licensed. I'm not licensed, so there's still room for making fun of me. But I did pass my national licensure exam. Woohoo! So
just so you know, that's not why we make fun of you.
Oh, that's
there are a million other reasons.
Because I'm stupid.
Can I give you a piece of advice, Emma Kate?
Yeah.
Go to licensed massage therapists too.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That's a good thing to.
I've done a good job with that in the past.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That is big news. That means you're pretty much, unless you do something insane, you're pretty much going to be a licensed psychologist.
That's right. Just need my hours.
All righty. Dr. Frank Gaskell's here. Frank, any news on your part?
I have been reading a lot lately, which is very unusual for me.
And right, what are you reading?
Well, one is a doctor's orders, and the other is basically, I can't remember the title of it, but it's like The Monstrous Beard, this graphic novel that is very limited in terms of words, but it's beautiful to look at. And I don't usually read, so I'm happy about that.
Sounds perfect for you.
Yeah.
A lot of pretty pictures and no words.
Yeah, picture book.
Mm-hmm. And Jonathan Hederley's here. He's our certified Asian who rounds out the panel. And Jonathan, any news for you?
I've been on this 80s movie binge, and Julie has greatly appreciated that because she's just listening to me watch films like The Beastmaster or Gleaming the Cube on Netflix, and the music and the acting is it does not hold up. Let's just put it that way. But I've been trying to revisit all these old movies that I have positive memories of, and to see which ones hold up and which ones are of their time, or it's because I was 7 years old.
And what is holding up?
Well, a movie called Pump Up the Volume I think holds up pretty well. It has a killer soundtrack, whereas Gleaming the Cube with Christian Slater does not. And last night I finished watching this Vietnam movie called Hamburger Hill. It does not hold up, unfortunately.
Is Gleaming the Cube a euphemism?
It is, but in the case of the movie, it's about like skateboarding and like it's like riding the wave for surfers. Gleaming the Cube is what skateboarders do when they like reach euphoria.
Could be a better title, maybe.
Could be a better movie.
I mean, Hamburger Hill doesn't sound that great either. So
no, that actually matches because that's Vietnam.
Oh,
how about
right,
Gleaming the Hamburger? Mashup. Well, each week Jonathan trolls the internet and he finds a great story for us of psychology in the news for our first segment that we call
Being Human.
So at what age do girls act mean in today's times? It may not be the same as it used to be. At least that's what the Department of Psychological Studies at the University of Vermont attempted to study, looking at the effect of parental input on the social adjustment of girls. They found relational or social aggression, commonly referred to as bullying, starts early, even around the age of 3rd grade. And these days we hear of girls at a younger and younger age exhibiting similar mean girl behaviors such as excluding, isolating, spreading rumors verbally, or posting lies online. So, Emma Kate, do you think girls are acting meaner at an earlier age? And what was your own experience with mean girls growing up?
You know, I think it's interesting because I'm not really sure they're acting meaner earlier. I think we're just more aware of it personally. And I don't know if my lens is kind of skewed because I was bullied a lot when I was younger.
Just when you were younger.
Right. Not in this room.
Not in this room.
At all.
Not as an adult.
Never. No, but I mean, but in all seriousness, I think it's something that we're more aware of. It's part of the national conversation trying to be against bullying. And I do think there's a lot to be said in terms of how parents are handling this with their kids, because there's a lot of research that talks about parents that use more coercive or aggressive discipline actions with their kids. Their kids are more likely to be aggressive and use coercive methods. And so I don't know. It's hard to say for sure. If this was longitudinal data, then I might be like, okay, I'd buy it. But I don't know. I think we're just more aware of it.
I will tell you, I have never heard of such bullying, at least in some local schools here in the 3rd and 4th grade. I mean, pretty hardcore stuff that I wouldn't think would happen in fairly protected environments. And I'm not advocating this, but I'm wondering if it's more now because it's like zero tolerance, and so they've gotten better at hiding it and not getting caught. Where when I was younger, they'd just duke it out. There'd be a fight, it'd be over with, and everybody's good.
Frank, were you bullied by mean girls growing up?
I was bullied by all forms of human and animal alike.
But even then, I feel like guys are more likely to duke it out than
Yeah,
girls,
but we
girls
resolved
are just
it.
nasty. They'll go real undertone level.
They'll go undertone.
Yeah, they need to just duke it out.
Yeah, I can't tell if it's more or we're just have a platform for them to do it more. But Frank, what were you saying? Like, it's unlike what you could imagine at 3rd and 4th grade, meaning like it's meaner than you think or more sophisticated than you think?
Both. A local school, 4th grader held down in the playground behind a building and kicked and beaten at a very nice school. And I just think, really? That's Lord of the Flies stuff.
And this is girls or boys?
Girls.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that?
So that's good times.
Yeah. Jonathan, do you have a sense that this is something that's worsening? Do you have a sense that it's something that's just always been there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of I'm uncertain about that. But one thing I do feel like as a culture, I feel strongly has changed is we've become more sensitive. And I don't just mean like more aware and advocating. I think we have become hypersensitive as a culture. And so our first reaction is to overreact. And I don't think just as kids, I think parents as well, they overreact. And we talk a lot about frustration tolerance and resiliency and grit. And I'm not advocating bullying. I'm not advocating anything along those lines. But I do feel like we've moved into this time where we try to problem solve every single thing about life to the point where are we contributing to this overreaction and oversensitivity to everything? I don't know where that balance is.
Yeah. And the study that they quoted in this piece didn't necessarily say that there's evidence that it's getting worse, right? I mean, we don't necessarily know that. They're just talking about that we do know that girls are being mean at early ages. Is that a fair summary?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think the title, try to lean in on the popular film and book about Mean Girls, and that really is about high school politics, whereas they're saying as early as 3rd grade, girls start to exhibit this type of behavior.
Yeah. All righty. Well, Mean Girls, and Emma Kate, you weren't a mean girl.
No, I was a victim of the Mean Girls. Got
Were you?
pushed down the slide, had no friends because the boy that this one girl liked, he liked me, and I didn't know it. So.
Well, but let's just be honest. Before we even started recording, Emma Kate's like, it's because I hit puberty much earlier than other girls.
No, it's true.
And so she's walking around like I got the goods, and the other girls get all mean and jealous.
Not. I was walking around like I feel so weird. I feel so uncomfortable, and research even shows that girls don't fare as well if you mature earlier versus if guys mature earlier.
We don't need research to tell us that. We just look at your life.
Whatever. Fine. I was the same height that I was in 5th grade as I am today. I haven't grown since, and whatever. Screw
and
you
whatever.
Guys. Screw you guys.
Spoken like a true victim. Meh, meh, meh.
Jonathan, were you a mean girl?
Oh, I was catty. Oh, yeah. My people don't just eat cats. We're catty.
Oh,
No.
There it is.
I kind of have a sense that Jonathan was a little bit of a, I don't want to say bully, but he would go after people when he was in school.
100%.
Yeah.
You think so?
Not even
talking
kind
about,
of.
I'm not even talking about high school. I'm talking about like elementary school.
Yes. Day one. He
No,
came
think
out
so.
like screaming at his mom. Expletives.
Yeah, that's why she gave me up for adoption, right?
Right.
I think, I mean, we talk a lot about sarcasm. I think a lot of my subtle digs at that age went over people's heads. Like they didn't realize.
Because you're so smart.
Well, no. I mean, because let's face it, you pick on the wrong person at that age, you get pummeled. So, I've never been in a fight. But obviously, you guys know sometimes I just can't keep my mouth shut. Like things just kind of pop out.
Oh, never noticed that.
Yeah, you never noticed that?
No.
So I would definitely kind of zing them, but in a way that they were more confused rather than like provoked or upset.
Yeah, I buy that. I totally buy it. Well, let's change gears and talk about our trending topic. This week kicks off the Winter Olympics. And I want to just first ask about whether you care or not about that, whether you're excited or not about it. So, Emma Kate, how about you? What's your feeling about the Winter Olympics?
Very excited about the Olympics. Feel weird about it being in Korea, if I'm being honest.
Racist.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Jonathan's homeland. Frank, how about you?
I'm pretty excited about it because I think my kids will get into it. But I'm also a little more interested in sort of the geopolitics of it all, with the Russians not able to compete under their flag. It has to say that they have some other name, and they won't play the Russian anthem. They will play the Olympic anthem, and that's just hilarious to me. But I don't know, seeing the Koreas, I got to see this opening
Did you
ceremony.
say seeing the Koreas?
Yeah, seeing the North and South Korea come out under one flag, that's crazy.
That is kind of crazy. I mean, it is.
Very crazy.
All right, Jonathan, how about you?
I'm not really interested. Really haven't been. I think it's especially Winter Olympics. I just don't have as much interest as the Summer Olympics. My daughters, they swam for a certain period of time. I ran track in middle school. So I think just from personal experience, the Summer Olympics I have more personal connection to than Winter Olympics. I'm like Frank, though. I'm really intrigued by just the political landscape of the world right now and it happening in Korea and everything with Russia and even just with Trump being in the White House. I think that holds more intrigue for me than the actual competition.
Yeah. So when you guys think about growing up, watching the Olympics, Olympic memories, anything jump out at you, good or bad? Emma Kate, did you have a memory that you were, like when you think of the Olympics, particularly the Winter Olympics, that stands out for you?
Well, not from when I was younger with the Winter Olympics. I definitely do for summer because I got to see the Magnificent Seven in Greensboro for, I guess, the national, I can't remember what it was, but I got to see that team before they went to win the gold medal. And then the thing that stood out the most for Winter Olympics actually was the most recent one in Sochi, because I was so obsessed with all the stray dogs that they had and like learning about how these dogs like figured out how to ride the subway system in Moscow. And is it sad that that's what I was more excited about, was helping the stray dogs?
No, it feels very consistent to what I know about Emma Kate.
Right. I was like, oh, we got to help them.
Yeah. What's your favorite Olympic memory? Stray dogs riding a subway. Yeah. Frank, anything stand out for you?
A couple things. I'm always obsessed with the sport that I can never remember the name of, with the rocks that you have to clean the ice. You know that thing?
Curling?
Mm-hmm.
I love watching curling, and I love watching the bobsleds, but my favorite memory was the Dream Team, just the very first Dream Team. That was just ridiculous spectacle.
Absolutely.
What's the Dream Team?
The Dream Team was Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson,
The first
Patrick Ewing.
NBA, all NBA Olympic team in '92 Barcelona.
Yep. And it was what Christian Leitner was the one college guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we were blowing people out. It was so great.
Yeah, that was cool.
Jonathan.
Well, I remember the 88 Olympics, which were, I believe, in Seoul, Korea as well. And I think that's when Ben Johnson of Canada broke the world record for the 100-meter, beating Carl Lewis, but then he was later disqualified because he tested positive for steroids. Again, just sort of kind of being quasi-interested in like Asian culture. I'm always fascinated by when the Olympics are going to be in Korea or China, how 2 or 3 years beforehand they start clearing out the dog meat markets because they're like, that's just not going to be.
Are you serious?
Oh, I'm dead serious.
But they're not using the strays, right?
It's like a fresh market, but it's with dog meat, and they have to clear those out so that when camera, come in, they won't be like, and here's where the Olympics are happening, and here's where you buy dog meat.
Oh,
I hear business has really dropped off for KFD in Korea.
Kentucky Fried Dog. Wow, finger licking good.
This is upsetting.
The meat is a little rough.
Oh, you did not do that.
Rough. We definitely have a dog theme today.
We do.
My memory is actually when I was in high school, I watched, and it's one of those things you have to kind of check yourself and like, do I just remember having watched highlights and the movie, or did I really see it? But I really saw it, and that was the Miracle, the Miracle team when the U.S. hockey team beat the Russians.
That was the best.
And it was the best. And by the way, that movie, Miracle, is one of the great sports movies. I mean, it's definitely in the top 5 for me of sports movies. But I do remember seeing that event. It was very hyped at the time, and it totally lived up to it. So it was kind of cool. It was a cool experience. So
I'll tell you, hey Dave, I have one other memory. It was absolutely inspiring, but it was back in 1960. I was watching this guy from Ethiopia.
Oh, back in 1960 when you were...
I was a thought.
When you were
I don't even think you were a thought. You were a pipe dream.
His name was Bibi Bakila of Ethiopia. He's the first black athlete to win the marathon in 1960, and he did it barefoot.
And you remember that?
I do vividly.
That's one of your vivid memories.
Yeah, it wasn't in color. It's not a color memory.
Yeah.
It's black and white.
A bunch of you mentioned the global politics, some of the controversies. What is really intriguing you in terms of the politics, the current political climate, some of the controversial stuff? What's really hitting you right now? Anybody can grab that.
I guess for me, I just feel a little uneasy, especially because I feel like Donald Trump and North Korea, they've been kind of, I don't know, they're just like egging each other on. And my one hope is that we really can put aside some of our differences and come together for this sort of event. I just know that there's always some sort of political undertone, which is anticipated, expected. But I just feel uneasy personally.
Uneasy, like something's going to happen?
Yeah. I don't want it to, but I'm an anxious person, so I have these worries.
I know we're not going to see it, but I would love to see a bunch of South Koreans defect, but they're not going to do it because
you mean North Koreans?
North Korea because they'll kill their families if they defect. So we won't see that.
Oh yeah. I mean, they just brought a whole like a ship load over, literally of North Korean folks, and I was thinking they've got like hundreds, maybe thousands coming over. Every single one of them has got their family on the hook, like they've got it nailed down entirely.
Hopefully a couple of those people have bad relationships with their families and they can just take off.
Right.
That is the hope.
Right.
That their family will be unfairly tortured.
Well, okay. Let's pretend my kids could go to the Olympics. Like, we're North Koreans and they can go to the Olympics. I am fine if I get killed so they can be free.
We are all fine with that.
I am good with it.
I will finance their defection.
No, like legitimately, I feel like there probably have been some conversations with parents, with their kids, and say, you know what, if you get a chance, go. Don't worry about us. We live in North Korea. It sucks anyway. I'd rather be dead.
But even then, that's so unreal that that's the conversation that they have to have. So that's why I feel uneasy. I don't like it. I want everything to be smooth and okay. And
yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
They've already had something like 1,200 of their security guards wiped out from norovirus. Like they've quarantined. I think it was some huge numbers, like 1,200, something like that, from norovirus before it even started. So. Got that going. Jonathan, anything really piquing your interest?
Well, I mean, I think back to the 96 Olympics in Atlanta with the bombing.
Yeah.
And one of Steven Spielberg's most underrated movies, Munich, explores the 72 Olympics. And, you know, I don't know if I'm as anxious as Emma Kate, because I don't think I'm as anxious person as she is.
True.
But the Olympics have been an international stage for disturbed people and organizations to try to make a statement to the world. And right now we live in so uncertain times that I certainly don't welcome it, but there is an element of uncertainty. Could something happen? And I just, to me, obviously any type of tragedy is tragic, but also for people that, especially young people, young amateurs that spend their whole life, almost every hour, waking hour of their life up to this point, to train, to compete for this one moment that happens every 4 years, and for something to interrupt it, I think is really, really sad and unfortunate.
So do you think that backdrop affects the competition in a direct way? In other words, this kind of global uncertainty, the rise of right-wing authoritarianism across the globe, the nature of where things are from a geopolitical standpoint. Do you think that seeps in, or do the athletes have this ability just to kind of tune it all out and do their thing and perform up to their ability? What's your guess?
I think they are able to tune it all out. I mean, these are Olympians, but I also think in the case of the U.S.-Russia hockey game, given the Cold War and the status of things, that played in our favor. I mean, we were the Americans going in, and I bet they were emboldened because of that. I don't know that we'll see much of that here, but I think it can add, but I think they wall it off.
I think also, I mean, I tend to agree with Frank. To get to that level of competition, you have to have just strong mental resiliency and the ability to block a lot of stuff out and be able to do it on command. But I also think certain countries and nations where political unrest is all they've ever known, that they don't really have to block it out. That's just what they've been born into. And so they've always known, like, we live in civil unrest, civil war, tension, and you want to be an Olympian, you have to figure out a way to perform at the highest level. So, I mean, even the question sometimes highlights sort of some of the privilege that we have experienced in the United States compared to some other countries.
So here's another angle that is interesting. I didn't realize this, but apparently this is the first Olympics or Winter Olympics, maybe either winter or summer, where an openly gay athlete is performing or competing. I thought that's a surprise to me, right? We've got a good number on our team of openly gay athletes. Apparently that's the first time that's happened. Is that, I mean, am I wrong in that?
It seems weird.
I didn't. Yeah. I would have assumed your same perspective. Like, I thought that was kind of.
I mean, the costumes suggest otherwise, but.
Well, there are people that are competing this year that apparently have come out between the last time they competed and this year, like Gus Kenworthy. And by the way, Emma Kate, do you remember the story back in Sochi Olympics with the stray dogs? And there was a guy who adopted all of them, and he had pictures. Yes. That's Gus Kenworthy. He's a skier, and he's like like extreme sports X game kind of. I mean, but he's a great skier. But apparently, he was not out at the time and has since come out. And then there's figure skater, and there's a number of others on our team.
Wait, a figure skater?
I know, but that's what's weird to me is like I think it's kind of common knowledge that there's a lot of gay figure skaters, right? But apparently this guy Adam Rippon is the first guy who's, and maybe I'm getting my facts wrong, but what I'm understanding is that they're the first openly gay athletes before the Olympics begin.
And what was his last name again?
I forget.
Oh, okay.
But so, do you guys? I mean, have you heard otherwise? I
have not.
Okay.
No, and I think what we're seeing is they're making a big deal out of it. Number one, it is a big deal because it really is actually putting America kind of to shame in terms of how much that has been something that even if it's either well known within the Winter Olympic community or athletes community, that the public and the media are so kind of sensitive, or they're trying to avoid kind of highlighting that as framing part of the story. So I think what we're seeing really is that the people that are marketing the athletes, the people that are publicizing it in the past, they probably did everything in their power to kind of push that aside and not have that be part of the human angle.
I mean, yeah, I could see that. But even then, it's always been about the athleticism. It's, people of different ethnicities, different countries, different backgrounds, and now it's just different sexual orientations. And so I think it's cool. But I also feel like it's not the main focus, if that makes sense.
Well, here's another angle on that. So a couple of these guys have really come out against Mike Pence leading the delegation. And so the criticism that they have is, here's the vice president leading the delegation, and he's a guy that has a very anti-gay record in terms of not wanting there to be legislation that protects civil rights for LGBT people, backing conversion therapy stuff, and et cetera, et cetera. Do you think they have a point, or is it just like, look, this is the current administration, that's who's going to lead, it's going to be represented, that's just part of it. There's always going to be people that are going to disagree politically with someone. So what's your take on that?
I think it's their right, and I think their duty. I mean, we really promote that in America to have their voice and speak up, but at the same time, he is the vice president. So I think one of the things we're learning in our culture is that you can protest, so you can object, and you can have your voice, but it doesn't mean that it automatically has to result in change or you getting your way.
Right. Well, very good. So we're going to go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, Dave, there's one thing I want to ask you because I wasn't around during this time, but did you get a chance when you went to the LA Olympics in 1932? Did you get to meet Gandhi? Because he was actually a sports reporter then covering the Olympics. Did you shake his hand or anything?
Well, I didn't shake his hand, but I got a selfie with him.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a highlight of my my middle-aged life.
That's awesome. Okay, yeah. Thanks for that.
Well, let's shift gears and talk about our doctor's orders. These are things that we're personally enjoying in pop culture that we want to recommend to you. And Frank, do you have something for us?
I do. I'm about 3/4 of the way through a 386-page graphic novel called My Favorite Thing is Monsters. And it is beautiful and is probably the most intense graphic novel I have ever read. It's right up there with Watchmen. And it's the story of a little girl who sees herself as unattractive, and she's drawn as a little mini werewolf. And she is solving the death of the person who lived above her. And it's set in late 60s Chicago. And this is book 1. Book 2 will be coming out, but it is a piece of art.
And is it a scary book, or is it a...
No. It's based in reality. It's just the real story, but each chapter has an original cover of one of the like creepy monster magazines, and she weaves tales through that to try and figure out what happened. But I highly recommend it, even just to put it out as art.
So it's in reality,
Yes.
and she's a werewolf.
It's how she sees herself.
Okay.
But she's drawn as a werewolf.
Okay.
Say the title one more time.
My favorite thing is monsters.
Okay. Jonathan.
I honestly don't remember if I've recommended this already, but there is a Netflix original show called The End of the Effing World. And it is such a weird and funny and provocative show surrounding a teenage guy that wonders if he's a psychopath. And for him, it's basically the one final test to determine if I am is to kill someone. And so he targets this high school girl who's basically like looking for a relationship. She's like, I think I'm falling in love with him. And in his mind, he's like, when am I going to kill her? And it's the premise is so out there. And the whole show is they're funny. They're 20-minute episodes. So Julie and I binge watched it in one night. It's called The End of the Effing World on Netflix.
I'm definitely going to watch it. I'm going to recommend a movie that got nominated for Best Picture, and we haven't talked about it on the show that I can recall, but it is Lady Bird, and it is a really good high school comedy drama. The performances are top-notch. The story is great. It's like a really, really good high school story, but just elevated to this other level. Highly recommend it. Definitely encourage you guys to see Lady Bird, especially before the Oscars. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Shrink Tank Podcast. We hope you'll check out shrinktank.com for great articles and videos, and follow us on Twitter at @shrink_tank, and like us on Facebook, please. Our producer and music composer is Sean Beck. For Emma Kate Wright, Jonathan Hedderly, and Frank Gaskell in Charlotte, I'm Dave Verhagen in Nashville. Tell all your friends about us and make it a great week.